Dear fellow panelists, guests, and distinguished entrepreneurs, Merhaba, Ehlan, hello. Welcome to our webinar today, where we will discuss the opportunities offered to the startup community by Startup Bahrain and Invest in Istanbul. Let me first start by introducing our panelists and agenda of the event. Here is Pakiza Abdulrahman, Head of Startups Bahrain at EDB. Also today with us is Mr. Onur Partal, who is a Project Director at Invest in Istanbul. Pakiza will provide information on Startups Bahrain, which is the Bahraini ecosystem and platform for innovative startups and scale-ups. It is made of startups, corporates, investors, accelerators, incubators, educational institutions, and the Bahraini government. Mr. Onur, on the Turkish side, will brief us on the Istanbul startup ecosystem and will share with us some highlights and success stories from Istanbul. For this event, the EDB had partnered with Invest in Istanbul to support the startup ecosystem globally during those challenging times. And myself, I'm Neşe Seçer. I'm the moderator of the event today. I'm the Turkey consultant on behalf of Bahrain EDB, and based in Istanbul, Turkey, we support Turkish startups and companies to set up in Bahrain and grow in the region. Our webinar today will be a 1-hour-long event. We will start with the presentations of Pakiza, and short video will follow afterwards. Then we will continue with Onur's presentation and 2 videos afterwards. The Q&A session will be at the end, and here in the bottom of the screen you can see the Q&A button. I would advise that you write your questions there, and we will address these questions in the last part of our webinar. Now, let me start by first mentioning the MOU between Bahrain EDB and Invest in Istanbul, or Istanbul Development Agency. It has been signed in April last year and aims to promote two-way, mutually beneficial trade and investment relationship by providing businesses the support required to scale to new destinations. The services included are office space, transport, connection and introduction to ecosystems, and tourism. For office space, both institutions provide co-working desks and incubators and entrepreneurship centers. And these are free for a month. Discount for travel is available in both cities, and likewise, introduction to the ecosystems, like to VCs, to mentors, to potential partners and suppliers, is the key feature of this agreement. Now, let me pass the microphone to Pakiza. I'm sure she is excited to start with the introduction of the Bahrain startup ecosystem. The floor is yours, Pakiza.
Thank you so much, Neşe. We'll start my presentation. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Onur, for joining us today on this global webinar. Many to come as well, and allow me if I would share my screen and share a short video about Bahrain.
Business friendly is not just a slogan. It's actually an aspiration that we challenge ourselves to live up to every single day.
You can find people from all over the world. It's a very open-minded country in the sense that everyone coexists very peacefully and amazingly here. It's just a really beautiful place to be.
I think what makes us unique is that if you arrive into Bahrain, you are likely to be driven in your taxi by a Bahraini, to be checked into your hotel by a Bahraini. You'll have an interaction with the people of the country.
We have a very high level of education in Bahrain. This has created a tech-savvy population that are always demanding for the latest technology.
Any young Bahraini woman who is looking to draw inspiration can just look all around her. There are women on boards, women who run family businesses, who are ambassadors, ministers.
don't believe in zones for our businesses. We don't create a separate zone where that business can have certain privileges and ownership rights. We consider our whole country a zone. Geographical position belonging to the GCC are very strong advantages.
In the late 60s, we took on upon ourselves to diversify from oil, so we started our diversification program more than 40 years ago, and today we continue to do that.
Bahrain is very focused on developing a pipeline of infrastructure investment.
In total, we have about $32 billion worth of investments. We'll see projects materialize within the next 3 to 4 years.
It's part of a longer strategy, and certainly it will provide work. It will provide also opportunities for foreign companies to work downstream, be part of construction.
We expect to have a large multiplier effect of the money being spent on these projects filter through the economy.
You only have to ask the investors that have been established here how much they've grown, how much they've enjoyed their presence here, and how lucrative it has been for them.
The one thing that I would choose above anything else in Bahrain is the people. They're my family.
What you will remember in any visit is the people you've met, the impressions they left you with. And I think you'll find in Bahrain that friendly, approachable population that you'll make friends with, you'll remember, and they'll stick in your mind.
Thank you so much. I'll loop in the slides and thank you all for joining once again. Pakiza here from the Bahrain Economic Development Board. So about Bahrain, just a moment, yeah. About Bahrain, Bahrain is an island in the heart of the Gulf region. It's about the size of Singapore with with a population of 1.5 million. The country acts as a gateway to the growing GCC market, a $4.5 billion worth of a market with around 45 million consumers. Bahrain has been a pioneer in the past decades with a lot of firsts in the region. So formal education started in Bahrain in 1919. Following that was the discovery of oil in 1932. And with a very focused government on advancement and moving into diversification of the wealth of the country into a rapid and agile economy, the country moved forward with liberalization of the telecom industry, with having a cloud-first policy in 2018, a sandbox regulatory platform to allow for innovation in the financial technology sector. The Team Bahrain approach that was adopted in the country to allow for a connected way of reaching out to the investors and the decision makers to come together and follow on solutions and spearheading innovation in multiple sectors. The country is open for 100% foreign ownership that is allowed in many sectors, and we are very thrilled to be named and crowned first a top expat destination in the MENA region for the second year on a row. With 9 focus sectors, there's always one aim for Bahrain. It's your business prosperity. And moving into An example of that is there are many international companies that chose Bahrain to headquarter themselves into the region. AWS launched the first hyperscale cloud data center in Bahrain in 2019. Mondelez, the international manufacturing unit that creates the famous Oreos, are established, their headquarters, their MENA-based headquarters are in Bahrain. Over the past few years, the region saw a growth in investment in tech startups with notable exits and a growth year on year with the number of venture deals and investments. And with the ideal location of Bahrain, with its nimble ecosystem and its growing population, Bahrain is your ideal location to scale into the growing MENA markets. With a growing number of tech-based startups and startup-friendly regulations, we've launched a Startup Bahrain initiative that glues together the stakeholders of supporting startups in the country. We work very closely with incubators and accelerators, with different regulators. We introduce multiple innovative funding solutions, be it from government grants or VCs and angel investment networks, and work very closely with corporates to engage them with the startups and help introduce creative and disruptive and innovative solutions to those corporates. Allow me to take you through a few of the accelerators that are established here in Bahrain. You've got Brink Batelco. It's an accelerator out of Hong Kong with global footprint and a focus on IoT. Flat Six Labs is based out of Egypt with a strong presence in the MENA region, has their establishment here in Bahrain and launches a yearly cohort of startups that fall across different sectors. Brilliant Lab is an accelerator out of Kuwait, based here in Bahrain, invests in early stage startups that fall into different sectors. Bahrain FinTech Bay focuses on fintech, is a homegrown incubator that grew into different markets in Singapore, in Detroit, Silicon Valley, and recently Jordan. Bahrain Fashion Incubator focuses on emerging fashion technologies and strives to build relations with Italy, France, Malaysia, and multiple countries to help the fashion designers implement disruptive technological solutions and learn the technical skills as well. The Collective Hub, recently launched in Bahrain, acts as a co-working space to put together the angel investors, some of the VCs, and some of their portfolio companies into one space to allow for a flow of amazing ideas among people. Recently launched in Bahrain is the Export Bahrain initiative that focuses on providing grants, programs, information to local exporters and helping them grow into different markets and focusing on e-commerce and utilizing the latest technologies and the emerging technologies to connect and create opportunities of growth. So my colleague Nashi spoke about the Global Outreach MOU that we've signed with Invest Istanbul back in 2019. This was a delightful start of our experience and our engagement with the Turkish ecosystem. I've personally been extremely happy and delighted to meet with different stakeholders and ecosystem builders in Turkey back when I attended the Global Entrepreneurship Congress and I met some of the esteemed partners. Here are some of the Turkish companies that are exploring Bahrain. Some of them have actually started and are operational, like Just Mop and Mental App. taking you through a couple of updates with the work we've done with Sapanji University through their Sukul program. They've arranged for some startups from their program to come to Bahrain and at the EDB by providing them with connections to events, to stakeholders and decision makers that would help give them an overall image about Bahrain's startup ecosystem. So here on this picture, they've attended the AWS annual Startup Day in 2019. We've also participated at the Flat 6 Labs demo day, their annual demo day, where they met some of the investors and other local startups. Tenmu, Bahrain's angel investment network, arranged for a meetup where the startups, the Turkish startups, had a quick sort of a demo day to pitch their business ideas to the Bahraini investors. And this was at the Brink IoT Hub. And thank you so much for following through. We continue to be your single point of contact in Bahrain. Should you have any question, any inquiry, and any need to connect with a startup, with a funding organization, or an incubator or accelerator, please feel free to connect with us directly. Thank you so much. And Neshe, back
Thank you very
to
much, Pakiza. Thank you. Thank you for sharing these valuable facts. I'm sure our audience now is even more enthusiastic on exploring the opportunities available in the Bahrain startup ecosystem. Having listened to the Bahraini side, I would like now to give the floor to Mr. Onur so that he introduces us the Istanbul startup ecosystem. The floor is yours, Mr. Onur.
Thank you, Neshe, and thank you, Pakiza, for this great event and for making this happen. This is Onur from Invest in Istanbul office of Istanbul Development Agency. Before proceeding to my presentation, I would like to just share my view in Istanbul, and it is a bit partly sunny. And can you see the view here? Okay. It's partly sunny today, and on the left-hand side, you see the Asian continent, and on the right-hand side, this is the European continent, and this is the Bosphorus Strait dividing these two continents. And on the right-hand side, on the top of the hill, probably you will see the Topkapı Palace, which has been home to Ottoman sultans, with huge history here around in Istanbul. So if any of you from Bahrain or any other part of the world, if you would like to come to Istanbul, you will be very welcome from our side, and we will be very happy to accompany you, keep you company while you are traveling around Istanbul. So let me just go back to my presentation. By the way, please, if you have any question, there's this Q&A box. Please do not hesitate to shoot your questions, so we will be very happy to answer all these questions. Okay. Thank you again. This is the start of my presentation. In my agenda, I will have 3 topics to cover: quick facts about Istanbul, the entrepreneurship or startup ecosystem, and also I would like to touch on the services that we provide in our new office in Invest in Istanbul. Istanbul is a timeless city at the crossroads. It is both an ancient city which has almost 9,000 or maybe more than 10,000 years old of history, but at the same time, it's a modern city with its skyscrapers. The view that I showed you is from the first skyscraper of Istanbul, which were constructed in the beginning of 1970s. It is both mystical. It has been the main topic of fairy tales, but also it's an earthly city which welcomes more than 14 million international visitors every year. It is both a religious city which is home to Islam, Christianity and Judaism, but at the same time, it is a secular city that you can enjoy its nightlife and its art galleries and modern museums. As I said, it's based on 2 continents. Well, one part is in Asia and the other part is in Europe. Probably you see this kind of map in most of the presentations, that people just put their countries or regions in the middle of the map and they say we are at the heart of the world. But why I put this slide is that from Istanbul you can access 1.6 billion people and you can access to a market of $30 trillion in only 4 hours of flight range. And Turkish Airlines, which selects Istanbul as its base, offer direct flights to more than 300 destinations and covers 127 countries with direct flights, which makes our national flag carrier becomes #1 in the world, flying to most countries worldwide. So this will be a good advantage for you to access to this huge market. And we are again very accessible because we have visa-free or e-visa regime with 117 countries. So this is again a good advantage for the startups to go back and forth to their hometowns in the other countries. We have 15.5 million inhabitants living in Istanbul. We have the GDP of $245 billion. I'm talking about the city of Istanbul, by the way. And we have the GDP per capita of around $16.2 thousand. In this presentation, all these pictures that you see are from Istanbul, by the way. And Istanbul's economy is larger from approximately 130 countries. We have a trade volume of approximately $200 billion, including exports and imports. And last year, there was 47,000 new firms were established in Istanbul. And currently, around 40,000 companies with foreign capital are also operating in the city of Istanbul, which makes it a very cosmopolitan city. Since 1998, I got this data from the Spectator Index. Turkey has been #4 in the world about per capita GDP growth in the last 22 years after Russia, Poland, and Ireland. And if you have a startup here or a company here, we have customs union with the EU since 1996. Which makes you very competitive because there is no customs when you are marketing your products to the European Union countries. Istanbul is the 8th major city regarding business friendliness. And in the last 15 years, we have jumped more than 50 ladders in the World Bank's Doing Business Index. And in the last 3 years, we have been the top improver in the world about this ease of doing business in the world, thanks to the laws and regulations passed in the parliament in Turkey in the last few years. You may wonder how many companies are doing business in Istanbul. It's 422,068 firms are doing business in Istanbul. They are registered to the Chamber of Commerce as of June 2020. And the median age is 31, which is the youngest population in top European cities, and 71% of the population is still in the labor pool in Istanbul. There are 7.7 million university students in Turkey, and 1 million of them are enrolled and studying in Istanbul's 61 universities. As I mentioned, we have welcomed 14.9 million international visitors last year. which made Istanbul as the 8th most visited city in the world and the 3rd most visited city in Europe, according to MasterCard. Which are the top feeder countries of Istanbul, or we can say which are the countries sending most visitors to Istanbul? Germany is number 1, Iran is number 2, France is number 4, France is number 3, UK is number 4, and Saudi Arabia is number 5, which means that we have this diversified portfolio of international investors coming from south to north to east and to the west. This is my last slide about the city of Istanbul. These are the most hashtagged cities on Instagram. Last month, we have surpassed Dubai and became number 4 in the world about the most hashtagged cities on Instagram after London, New York City, and Paris. Regarding the entrepreneurship ecosystem, we have a very dynamic ecosystem, especially in the last 20 years. We have made a huge jump, and we are, according to the value.ai, we are number 22 in the world as a startup city and number 10 in Europe. And this is the startup genome, the global startup ecosystem report. They have ranked the top emerging market ecosystems, and Istanbul has been ranked 16 in the world as an emerging market ecosystem, surpassing Dubai and Moscow in its region, and also Brussels. If you're asking me about the number of stakeholders since 2008, you see the cumulative numbers. We have now 157 stakeholders. And who are they? This is our startup ecosystem. And by the way, I'll be very happy to share my presentation with you, so you can just one by one explore the ecosystem stakeholders. And about the number of exits in the last 10 years, these are again the cumulative numbers. We have had 120 exits in the last 20 years. And these are the exits in the last 10 years. And you will probably see peak games in 2020, in the first half of 2020. It has been the first unicorn of Turkey, and it is an Istanbul-based startup. It was valued at $1.8 billion US, and it was acquired by Zynga, which is an American mobile game developer company. This company, Peak Games, was founded in 2010. This is the investment history. It has attracted around $33 million US of funds or investment. And last month, on June 1st, it was acquired by Zynga for $1.8 billion US. Istanbul is home to 5,000 startups, and Istanbul's technology startups are home to 25,000 qualified employees, including engineers and software developers and so on. And 3 of 10 top VC-backed exits in last year were in Istanbul. So this is the growing ecosystem in Europe. And as a footnote, 2 of 10 top VC-backed exits in 2018, the previous year of Europe, was also in Istanbul. Some highlights about our startup ecosystem. Last year, we had 94 deals for $102 million US. So VC funding and angel funding grew by 66%. We are number 4 in Europe in terms of the rate of women entrepreneurs, and we will be very happy to increase these numbers and make it even with our male entrepreneurs. And last year, fintech sector tops the table with 17 investments. So these are the most funded sectors on the left-hand side according to amount, and on the right-hand side according to deal numbers. So grocery delivery Getir company had $38 million of investment, so it became number one as an amount. But as I said, fintech is number one with the deals. Last year, Iziko, Foriba, and Parachute were the highlights of exits in Istanbul, and Getir, the grocery delivery company with $38 million of investment, was the highlight of last year. About Invest in Istanbul, this is our ecosystem. These are the groups of stakeholders. We will be very happy to mediate between you, international startups, and the Istanbul startup ecosystem. So we will be very happy to link you, put you in touch with the technology transfer offices, incubators, technoparks, mentors, accelerators, entrepreneurship centers, angel investors, VC funds, and all the other ecosystem stakeholders. And what we provide, what kind of services we provide, is that we will be very happy to start your business via a single office. We will be your guide and your network here in Istanbul, and we will be very happy to matchmake you with the local partners. We will be very happy to provide the sector-specific information about the growing IT sectors and the creative industries sectors of Istanbul. And our experts are going to be very happy to give you information on guidance on laws and regulations. Regarding going global, you know, Invest in Istanbul is an office operating under the umbrella of Istanbul Development Agency. So the development agency is a funding institution allocating funds to the innovative projects of both the for-profit companies and also for the not-for-profit institutions. So far, we have funded 4 projects, Innogate, iCube, Win Global, and SU Globe, in order to create opportunities for our Istanbul-based startups to go global and expand their businesses abroad. And our experts can provide practical assistance and help you with comprehensive advice on every step of locating and doing business free of charge, because we are a governmental institution under the umbrella of the Ministry of Industry and Technology of Turkey. Thank you very much. These are our social media accounts and email address. You can reach us at any time, and we will be very happy to suit you with the best information and guide you. And I will have some videos from our stakeholders, some special messages for our international startups. So let me share these videos for you.
Hello, I'm Ezgi Demir, coordinator of Turkish Technology Team Startup Center. Turkish Technology Team is a countrywide non-governmental organization that aims to make national technology movement with transforming Turkish society into people who produce and develop technology. Since 2017, T3 worked on equating youth with entrepreneurship, competitions, and supplementary technology education. Besides all these projects, T3 is also organizing Technofest Istanbul Aerospace and Technology Festival in order to create public awareness about the technology. This international event hosts lots of sub-events and international attendees. As T3 Startup Center, we are focusing on nurturing Turkish startup ecosystem with our projects. This year, we started Entrepreneur Fellowship Program for high school and university students. Also, the prototype stage startups can benefit from T3 Startup Center. We provide selected startups to office spaces, prototyping workshop, and investment opportunities as well. And last but not least, Being part of Teknofest Istanbul, we are organizing Takeoff Istanbul International Startup Summit. Takeoff is the biggest technology event in the region, which brings together more than 200 startups, 100 VCs, accelerators, and multinational companies all around the world. As a prize of the Startup Summit, international startups are awarded company establishment in Turkey. Up to now, 4 international startups established their company in Turkey and expanded their business into Istanbul. We provided these 4 international startups co-working space, company establishment support, mentorship, and $1,000 per month for a year. As Istanbul is a bridge between Europe and Asia, it's a good landing pad for all startups. Startups are supported by private and government institutions in Turkey a lot. If you are ready to expand your business into other markets, Turkey, especially Istanbul, is an attractive starting point in terms of grants, investment opportunities, and market size. We are waiting all of you in Istanbul.
This network, KRS Forum, and also I am the chapter president in Istanbul. I would like to say hi and you are very welcome in Istanbul and we hope to meet you soon. We are the world's largest network group and also only the one global network in Turkey who are supporting entrepreneurs. Since 2012, we have made investment for 64 million Turkish liras for 43 startups in all over the world and Turkey. So, as you are very welcome in here by Istanbul Development Agency and Invest in Istanbul office, we hope to meet you soon, and we also would like to meet you in person as soon as possible. Hope to see you here. Have a nice day.
Hello from Istanbul. My name is Aslı Kurul Türkmen. I am the Managing Director of Endeavor's Turkey office. Endeavor is a global nonprofit that works with entrepreneurs in emerging markets, and we aim to catalyze the entrepreneurship ecosystem so that economic development can happen, because we believe that entrepreneurs are the main drivers of economic growth. The Istanbul ecosystem has always been very vibrant, but recently we've also seen some very exciting developments, big exits, and global companies starting and having offices in multiple countries, which is giving us a lot of hope for the future as well. At Endeavor, we do mainly 2 things. One is to work with entrepreneurs in the field and select the ones that have the most potential and work with them through our international network to accelerate their growth. We have offices in almost 40 countries with staff in every one of them, so that we assist entrepreneurs with business development, market entry, access to finance, and mentorship. And we also do a lot of outreach activities in the countries that we're in, so that starting from students all the way up to entrepreneurs, so that a lot of people will get inspired and will see that they have role models and will aspire to become entrepreneurs. So we hope to see you in Istanbul and looking forward to working together.
Yep, this is the end of my presentations and videos. Thank you very much for your patience, and Neşe, the floor is yours again.
Dear Onur, thank you very much. It was very enlightening presentation and very nice videos. Indeed, we were all very proud to see the first Turkish unicorn last month, Peak Games. And we believe as cooperation between the communities intensifies, more and more success stories will follow. Actually, that's why we are here today as the Turkish and the Bahraini communities together sharing experiences. Now, let's address some of the questions that was raised by the audience. But before going to that, I just want to remind once again that our audience can type their questions in the Q&A button. If you press the Q&A button, there you can write your questions, and we will try to address these in the last part of our webinar. So let me ask a couple of questions now. Looking beyond COVID-19, what makes Bahrain an appealing market for Turkish startups and vice versa? I would like to ask these questions to our two panelists. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Neshe. Thank you, Onur, for this enlightening presentation. The recent pandemic put a lot of pressure on business and the social life as we know it. It disrupted a lot of our normal lifestyle living. It affected the logistics, the movement of people between countries, the movement and flow of information. The social distancing that happened put a lot of pressure on us to adapt to the new normal. Using technology has always been very helpful in mitigating that issue and that risk. So opportunities always arise from challenges. And for entrepreneurs and for startups, the pandemic is a great catalyst for change, the change that we wanted to see in the traditional businesses and the traditional economies. It's finally happening. The companies are realizing the importance of adopting technologies and adopting solutions to make their life easier, connected, and not only among the country and among different people in the same country, but also global connectedness. So even with social distancing, the opportunities for growth are tremendous, and the opportunity that comes in handy with the Turkish ecosystem is that it provides platforms for growth on both ends. We've seen the growth of Turkish companies in Bahrain that pivoted during this pandemic. So Just Mop, for example, started providing disinfection solutions and services for all the corporates in Bahrain. You've got Mental Up, which focuses on mental health and remote telemedicine. There are some platforms as well that base themselves in Bahrain, but provide their solutions globally, such as in Nakhil, which provides an IoT sensor that gets plugged into palm trees to help farmers early detect the weevils that affect palm trees. So it's those kind of solutions that provide true supportive solutions for individuals, for companies that are applicable not only in Bahrain, but across the region, and definitely, hopefully, in Turkey as well.
Thank you. And Onur, what makes Turkey an appealing market for the Bahraini or regional startups?
Okay. Especially right after the pandemic has started, our government has acted very smoothly and very rapidly, and especially our ministry, which is the Ministry of Industry and Technology, has announced a financial support program for the innovative projects all over Turkey, and Istanbul Development Agency was one of the parts and the groups of these development agencies which funded innovative projects in Istanbul, because this was, this is of course a disadvantage for the whole of the world, but at the end of the day, it brings some advantages for some startups. These are like opportunities for these startups. So how we handled is that we have allocated funds to the innovative projects of our startup ecosystem. We have funded the umbrella institutions who are hosting startups in their bodies. For example, like Endeavor Turkey or technoparks or technological development zones in Istanbul. So, and also we have funded some startups. Even we have funded some startups who were innovating and bringing solutions to this pandemic. So it was like an opportunity for them. So because when you are in Istanbul, there is no difference between being a Turkish capital company or a foreign capital company. We are all the same. We are on the same boat. So This was, I guess, handled very clearly and nicely. And if any of you would like to see the winning projects, you can just visit our website, Istanbul Development Agency, and see the winning projects about this pandemic and COVID process.
Thank you very much. I would like to address one of our audience, Mr. Farid Badir, who is welcoming Turkish startups to their accelerator. And he's happy to see them. Also, Yıldız Technopark, I think, is among our audience today. So that's nice to see Turkish technoparks as well. Now, let me pass to the second questions. Actually, Pakiza, maybe you addressed that to an extent, but are there any particular startup sectors that have witnessed a surge in demand as a result of the pandemic?
Absolutely. A couple of startups witnessed a huge growth in demand. The likes of the e-commerce platforms, where a lot of the retail shops in Bahrain have closed down for a couple of weeks. So e-commerce picked up a lot, grocery delivery applications and marketplaces, but also platforms like I've mentioned, Nakhil, for example, with the solutions that provide visibility to the situation of the palm trees, for example. You've got some platforms that helped with remote education, where schools were closed in, I believe, beginning of March. So there has been a need to focus on remote education and keeping with with that among students, among parents, and managing between different responsibilities. I'm particularly interested as well to note that a lady in Bahrain was able to create a abaya, the black sort of dress that women traditionally wear, with a nanofilm that covers that fabric and helps reduce body heat by 10 degrees. So this is particularly not COVID related, but these are the kind of innovations that we aspire to see coming out of the accelerators and coming out of the programs that the government has pushed forward in collaboration with different government funding agencies, such as Temkeen and such as other funds that are established here in Bahrain, and angel investors, all pushing towards the cultural change that happens in the country to adopt technologies and allow them to foster innovation among different sectors.
Thank you very much. Dear Onur, do you have anything to add from the Turkish side?
Oh, okay. I was going through the questions and on the Q&A box and also on the chat section. There are some questions. I would like to just directly go through them because probably they are very impatient to get the answers from us. Yes, I think this will be uploaded on Instagram or YouTube right after that. So if you missed the presentations or the information that are provided here, it will be online and you can just go and check it again. And we will be also sharing our presentations. It will be very welcome. And about this, names of the speakers that I shared my videos. The first one is Ezgi Demir, who is the manager of T3 Entrepreneurship Ecosystem. Number 2 is Duygu Eren, who is the general manager of the Keretu Forum Turkey, which is an business angels network. And number 3 is the managing director of Endeavor Turkey, Mrs. Aslı Kurul Türkmen. And what else? Can you please inform the details of the unicorn startup of Turkey? I think, and also he asked if the Turkish government support is disrupting the technological companies with funding support. I mean, this is like, we are not funding directly the startups, by the way. We are funding the organizations which are going to create opportunities and which are going to home for the startups, which means that we are funding accelerators, incubators, pre-incubation centers, mentorship programs, and all these networks and organizations. So this means that we are not just directly funding startups, we create opportunities for them. And because we want this startup ecosystem to flow on its own river. And we would like to just assist them to float on this flowing river. We will be very happy to help them on this regard. So this is another thing. And Yıldız Technopark, which is one of the largest technoparks in Turkey and also in Istanbul. So for the Bahraini startups, please apply to their programs because they're going accepting international entrepreneurs and also vice versa. And yeah, these are the questions I just went through. So you can just continue, Neşe.
Thank you very much. Dear Pakiza, is there something you would like to add as we are in the last 5 minutes of our webinar? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I did notice a question on the chat. Someone was asking about the details of the lady who created the abaya. Her details are with the Bahrain Fashion Incubator. I'm more than happy to connect you to them directly after this webinar. Do share with us your contact details and we will be more than happy to connect you with her directly. I would like to thank you, Neşe, and thank Onur for having us here and for connecting us with the different innovators and amazing opportunities that sit in front of the startups and the entrepreneurs and both global ecosystems to expand and to grow into new opportunities. I would like to thank Onur as well for helping some of the Bahraini startups navigate through Turkey last year. The experience has been great with them. They found it very useful. And like EDB being a one-stop shop for information, guidance, and aftercare support, Invest Istanbul has been great in supporting Bahraini companies as well. So thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with Turkish startups, accelerators, any organization in Turkey that would like to know more about what Bahrain has to offer, what programs to apply to, and what kind of grants and funding you can apply to. The country is open for 100% foreign ownership. We welcome you to Bahrain. Thank you, Neşe.
Thank you. Well, our time is limited. We aim to answer all of your questions, but still we might have skipped some. You're welcome to reach us. In the screen, you will see our contact details. You're welcome to reach us and address your questions or request further information. And thanks again for joining us today. Thank you, dear panelists, for sharing such an insightful information for both the Turkish and Bahrain startup communities. I hope this event was a fruitful one for each of you and had encouraged you to think out of the box and maybe start a journey in Bahrain or Turkey very soon. Why not? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.